So we're doing networks today. So sometimes this is known as directed graphs as well. So you might want to write a little note there that it's sometimes called directed graphs. So if you see that sort of question, something written there, they're talking about networks. Okay, so we do have all these types of graphs. So over here, I've given an example of a network here. So here is an example of a network diagram. Okay, so we have, first of all, we're going to look at the vertex. So the vertex are here. These are the points. So sometimes they might get a letter given to them. So I might call this A, this B, and C and D and E, and there's one over here too. So they're all, the points are all the vertex. So if the vertex are joined by, so sometimes there can be a path, or we call it an edge. So an edge, if they're joined along the edge, you can see like that, that's called an edge. So if you have a look here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got 8 edges in this diagram. So that's what an edge is. If the two vertex are joined together by a line, it's called an edge. Now we also can have an edge that's in particular a loop, and pretty self-explanatory. There it is. It goes back to the same vertex. It's just an edge that leads around and back to the same place. And when we have a collection of all of these things, it's called a graph. All right, so okay, so a graph is like what we've got. This whole diagram here is the graph. So when they said a graph is like the collection of the whole scenario going on here. So we would be calling this like, this is a network or a graph, a directed graph. All right, let's move on to, all right, so here we're going to look at the degree of the vertex. So remembering that the vertex is these points here. So here I've got I've got 5 vertex here. Now, when they say the degree of the vertex, it's how many edges are coming out of the vertex. So if you have a look, the degree of A, because it's got 2 lines that are coming out of it, so the degree of A is known as 2. So if you ask for the degree of the vertex, you say how many edges are coming out. Now, an important fact to remember is that the loop counts as 2 edges for the degree. So say here, B has this one coming out, but that's going to be 1, 2, and then there's a third one, 3. I do not know why they have put, there, and there's 4. So 3, 4. So there's the degree of that one. So if we go and look at the degree of, let's do D, and count how many. So D's here, it's got 1 coming out there, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there's the 5 that it's doing. All right, so that's the degree. So if you ask for the degree of the vertex, it's doing that. Yeah. Okay, so these last examples came from a VCE exam. They're very early on questions, pretty easy, but just to show you how they'll ask. So the number of vertices with odd degrees in this network. So first here's all the vertices, and we're going to have to work out the degrees. So I'm going to write the degrees in red here. So say for here, this one's 1, 2. This one has a degree of 2. If I go and do, well, I'll do this vertex here, it's got 1, 2, 3. So it has a degree of 3. Then if I do this vertex here, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4. So it has a degree of 4. And maybe this vertex here has a degree of 1, 2, so a degree of 2. And this final one over here has 1, 2, 3. So it has a degree of 3. And now they're asking the ones with an odd number degree. So that's an odd number and that's an odd number. So how many have an odd number? 2. Okay. So this last example down here, it says the network shown, the number of vertices with an even degree. So we'll go through them and check them out. So this vertex has 1, 2, it has a degree. I'm just going to write a number now, 3. If I look at this one here, it's got 1, 2. If I do the one in the center, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it had 6. Over here, this one had 1. I'll just rub out a little bit so we can see. Can use the colors again. Alright, so then we've got this one here, 1, 2, 3, has a degree of 3. This vertex here has 1, 2, 3, also has 3. And what one haven't I done? I haven't done down here. So I've got 1, 2, degree of 2. Okay, so it asks in the question how many of these have an even degree. So I'm going to say 1, 2, just 2. Okay. Good point is 3, so that's not, sorry, 6 is even, so it's 3. Thank you. Good.